Good afternoon. We're so excited to have in our Iwork at NCVPS speaker series today, Miss Amy Denton from Regional Representative of College Foundation of North Carolina, and she's going to give us some great information. So go ahead, Amy.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Thanks for letting me be here today. So what we're going to talk about, three primary things that we're going to focus on today during this pandemic time, and certainly we've got a lot of extra time perhaps on our hands, they're at home working. We're going to look at the opportunity to explore colleges through a virtual 360 tour concept, and we're also going to look at the college tour and the college search prospect from our website at CFNC. We're also going to focus a little bit more on the college redirection. This is a feature that's been at College Foundation for many years now, that students certainly at maybe this time of year or leading into the summer, if they're not really sure where they want to go or college plans have changed, that they can certainly take advantage of this. We'll go into more detail. And thirdly, student enrichment programs, summer camps, summer enrichment opportunities. Maybe there can be some that could be year-round that students can take advantage of. And I just wanted to make sure, as a reminder, Kim, that you did share with me that all of the presentations in this episode will be featured at the meeting archive that you have there at the Iwork site. So that is the correct address, I'm hoping.
That is correct.
Good, cool. Well, let's go to get started. And before I get into some more details about College Foundation and the features we offer and the virtual tours, let me first just make sure that everyone understands who College Foundation is. We've been around for about 20 years as a resource for the state of North Carolina, given the direction primarily from our state legislatures to serve our students and families in North Carolina, to help them with the path beyond high school, whatever that pathway may be, a two-year school, four-year school, certificate program, or diploma, it does not matter. So we're here to make sure our families know that they can come to us and use all the services that we have for free. And our motto, our slogan at College Foundation is helping you plan, apply, and pay for college. And I've highlighted just a few things there. Under the Plan tab, one of the primary features that we help students and families with is the careers. Understanding what will I do, or what can I do beyond high school. So researching careers, taking career assessments, searching out different programs and majors at the colleges we have in our state. That's a great step to take at any point in time while you're in high school. And then under the Apply section of our website, we're certainly going to offer the families and students the opportunity to apply to college using the college transcript feature and the college applications. And a big portion of going to college is understanding your obligations to pay for college. So we have a lot of information about scholarships and grants and student and parent loans, as well as the 529 college savings program. So again, we're here to make sure we can help you plan, apply, pay, and save for college. All right. And just to reiterate, the services that we share and the time that myself as a regional rep and the other 8 members of our team, everything that we do and the information that we provide through College Foundation is completely free. From the college applications that we're housing under CFNC for all of the 111 institutions, we don't charge them for that. Now, they may charge an application fee to have students apply, but it's completely free for us to house them under the umbrella of CFNC. Public high school students can send their transcripts for free. Students of any sector, public or private, in high school and college can take our financial literacy course. All of our scholarship searches, the college searches, and certainly the career tools. We're here to make sure that we can meet your needs, and we're not charging you a dime for any of those things. Most all students in North Carolina, if they're certainly choosing to stay in our state to go to a college, will at some point in time have to create a CFNC.org account. While it would be wonderful if every student in our state has an account and is actively using CFNC, we do know that not every student will choose our pathway and the information that we share for their next steps. But here are some reasons that students will need to have a CFNC account. So for anyone that may not already have an account, we encourage you to go ahead and create that. Number one, again, sending those electronic transcripts. If that student is a public high school member, and therefore they belong to DPI, the Department of Public Instruction, they can send electronic transcripts as their official transcript to any college in the state at no charge. Secondly, all of the community colleges in our state, all 58, have their application for admissions on our website, and we are the electronic measure for them to receive an application for admissions electronically. So we know that students are having to come through CFNC, have an account created in order to apply to any of our 58 community colleges. A lot of people don't realize that, but they are routed through CFNC. Thirdly, the new interview process called RDS, Residency Determination Service, has been around for about 3-4 years now. For any student wishing to go to one of our institutions, they must complete the RDS interview. It is a separate website that looks alone like it belongs to itself, but in reality, it's a behind-the-scenes page at CFNC. So we know that students must create an account or already have their account to log into the ncresidency.org site in order to complete their interview. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. And fourthly, for students wishing to apply to some of our institutions in our state during a particular time frame in October, many of our institutions waive the application fees. And the only way a student can have those fee waivers count will be to apply through our website. So that's some reasons that we encourage students to use us and certainly go ahead and create their accounts. So since I mentioned those three last things, let me go into a little bit more detail if folks on the meeting today are not familiar with it. And sometimes it takes some reminders for school personnel just to make sure they're aware that this process can take place at their schools and certainly save their schools a lot of money from sending out paper transcripts. Colleges today, of course, would prefer to receive everything electronically. They're only hoping that more and more students will provide electronic measures of documentation rather than certainly paper. So members of the public school systems in our state that are a part of the Power School system can send an official transcript at any time during the school year through our application hub. As a part of that, they can also send transcripts through the application hub, even if they did not apply to a college using CFNC. So what does that mean? Let's say, for example, a student applies to a college because of the college requiring them to use Common App, or maybe the school requires the student or prefers that the student apply through their college portal page. And I'm going to use ECU as an example. They have the Pirate Port, they have the Common App, and they also allow students to apply using CFNC. But if that student applied through the Common App, or if that student applied through the Pirate Port, ECU still prefers that students submit their transcripts through the CFNC website so that they can download that information directly into their student information systems without ever having to touch a paper transcript. So that would be a reason why students can still send transcripts even though they did not apply. Thirdly, students have the option to view the unofficial copy of their transcript after it was successfully delivered to any of our colleges in the state. It's an unofficial copy after the submission because we don't want students seeing that copy of a transcript, printing it off, and thinking they can deliver that to colleges and colleges will accept it. They will not accept, of course, an unofficial copy. What is delivered is official, through DPI, but the view for the students, it's going to have a watermark across it that says unofficial, but it just lets the student know that here's what was delivered. Here are the grades, here are the courses that was just sent to this institution that you asked them to be delivered. And fourthly, a wonderful resource that we have, upon the initial request for a transcript, it triggers a final transcript to be delivered once that student has graduated from high school within 10 days after the posted graduation date. We will pick up that final transcript and deliver to the institutions that the student initially had their transcript delivered. Now, we have added a new feature about a year or two ago. If I've delivered my transcripts initially to 10, 15 colleges, and let's say, for example, that I'm no longer interested in 7 of them, well, I can go into the application hub and stop the final transcripts for those 7 institutions from being delivered to the colleges. It's a wonderful new resource that certainly helps out on our bandwidth of our server systems when we're having to deliver tens of thousands of transcripts to colleges across the state in June. So those are reasons why we encourage students with the public sector or part of PowerSchool to use our transcript system. And one other thing to add, I always forget this. Even after a student has graduated from high school and they're now in college, or maybe they've taken a couple years off and they're wishing to come back to college, as long as that student was on the transcript system, being a member of PowerSchool, even if it's 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and of course they remember their CFNC login, they could come back to CFNC and request that transcript to be delivered. So this is not just for high school seniors. It can be for students beyond high school still needing to request a transcript to be delivered to a college. And keep in mind, it's all for free. So let's move on to the RDS. Again, this is one of the 3 key features of why a student will need a CFNC account. RDS is a fairly new process, is the centralized way for the institutions in our state to determine whether a student is a resident of North Carolina to meet the admissions criteria and to meet the in-state tuition rate. So of course that will only apply for North Carolina public college universities. That will be our 16 UNC campuses or the 58 community colleges. So we need to know what to charge them. Our institutions need to know to charge them in-state rates or out of state. So we require all students to go through RDS, and it's an interview, and a lot of the questions are going to be asked about parents. So we always encourage parents to drive the computer as best they can, or certainly have your parents close by to answer the questions regarding their status. The law says a student is a resident of a state depending upon where the parent's domicile is. So we have to go by the law, but we do ask that parents and families complete this as soon as, even as early as the summer, or the soonest the start of the senior year as they're advancing toward their final year of high school, okay? And then lastly, I mentioned earlier, three main reasons why students would need a CFNC account. And one of these, again, the college application week for the month of October. We focus on 3 primary things in October that we want school counselors, we want all of our college access groups, and anyone else, parents, to push students to complete. If indeed they can wait until October to send their applications for admissions, we encourage them to use this time to save some funds. So October altogether, we're going to push for students to do RDS, we're going to push for students to complete their FAFSA, and we're going to push for students to complete their applications for admissions. So the week of, and this is 2020, the week of October 19th through the 23rd, we're going to have the opportunity to offer to students at many of the public institutions in our state, and primarily they're the historically Black colleges and universities, as well as many of our smaller private schools in the state. They're going to waive the application fees. So during this 5-day window, students can apply and pay no fees to submit that application. So this is a wonderful opportunity that we're hoping that we'll have students all across the state and all the schools in the state to participate. Okay. So now let's move on to a little bit more of the details of why we're doing this Zoom meeting today. So college search, while you're at home, while you're exploring your options, whether you are still a graduating senior this year and you're not yet set on where you may wish to attend in August, or whether you're that rising senior or rising junior, now is the time to begin thinking about where I want to go. And one of the reasons that you're going to choose why you would wish to go to that institution is, of course, your career aspirations, your career goals. And we'll look at more information about that right now. So why not start dwindling down your options for colleges by exploring everything that's out there? So on CFNC, this is our college search feature. You can look at all the colleges in North Carolina, and we'll allow you to look for colleges nationally. Now, of course, we're not going to let you apply to those colleges through our website nationally. You can only do that for North Carolina schools, but we're going to allow you to search on a national level. And we've got tons of filters right here in the middle of the page. This is when you're actually on the college search option, this is a long list of filters that you can select. You can get very specific or just certainly be very broad. By admissions criteria, maybe you want to look at location. We have students all the time to say, you know, I want to go far from home. So you can do that. Look at colleges in the western part of the state or colleges in the eastern part of the state, whatever the opposite side of the state you belong. Cost, that's a big thing for certainly right now. Academics majors, the type of college, it doesn't matter. The neat thing is, after you do your search, of course, based on your filters, the map will populate with all these little pins of exactly where your college is located. It's an interactive Google map that it's going to share with you, not only in North Carolina, but if you do choose nationally, where in the United States this college belongs. And I want to point out a little something here to you. I think I've mentioned several times that we have 111 colleges in our state. However, the breakdown of the colleges is right here in red. We have 16 UNC campuses, 36 private colleges, and 58 community colleges. So if you do the math real quick, that equals 110. So who is the 111th campus? That's Johnson & Wales University in Charlotte. They are not one of our private colleges. We allow them the option for students to apply and students to explore. And there are a lot of great things you can find out through the college search. I'm picking on ECU again. So once you get your search filter completed, you have your long list of colleges, and you're selecting one of the institutions, and let's go here, for example, ECU. All of the institutions will have these tabs on the left-hand side. Tell me a little bit more about ECU. What is the admissions criteria for ECU? Their long list of majors. How much is it going to cost me? What's student life like? Even many of the institutions on our site at CFNC will have campus photos and videos, but that's totally the choice of the institution. The colleges update this data. We at College Foundation, we're not responsible for going into all 111 profiles and updating the data for them. The institutions do that themselves. And you'll notice up here in the upper right, directly from the institution's page, you don't have to leave that page to, number one, apply to college. That's what that little pencil is there for. You can save the institution as one of your favorites, and that's stored under your CFNC profile. You have the option to what we call get recruited, and I'm going to tell you more about that in another slide. If they have posted any type of events on their calendar, many institutions don't choose to do this, but if they have, you're going to be able to see those institutions with events on their calendar. And then you can certainly plug in directly to their Facebook or their Twitter or whatever other social media accounts they have. And maybe I'm searching the institutions, we have 111, and it's a college you've never heard about, and you don't really know where that is. You see it listed in your long list of filters, the results, but you don't know where that college is. we're going to, again, back to the interactive Google map, tell you exactly where the state that institution belongs. And a little bit more of information. We're going to take you live to the site. If this will load for me. Okay. So can you see this okay? Is this showing up, Kim, just fine?
No, not on our end yet.
Oh, you can't see that on your end. Okay. Well, let me close this out and I'll go back to the presentation and we'll start from there. Can you see okay now?
Yes, the ECU slides up.
Okay, good. I was not sure how going live to the site would work, so we won't offer that option to do that. So once you've picked on the institution again, and I told you about those tabs listed the about, admissions, and here's some admissions information. So this is actually some, I used a screenshot from a previous presentation. So this is data that needs and has been updated, but I'm not showing you the most recent data. So think about this, as you're looking at the first-time freshman enrollment, or maybe you're looking at the transfer students enrollment, look at this data and connect the dots about where you are in your planning. Maybe it's going to mean that you need to work a little bit harder to get grade point averages up. Maybe you need to retake testing if you have the time to retake testing. And just simply what are your college goals and the entrance information that you're going to need as you're planning for whatever colleges. So look at this data and let it be a guide to really where you think you may belong after high school, whether again it's the 2-year school or the 4-year school. So that was the CFNC side of the campus search feature that we offer. So now let's move on to more of the virtual reality, the true virtual reality campus tours. We're very fortunate that one of our partners in the state, Gear Up, has created an app, and they also have these lovely little viewfinders that you could find and look at colleges if you can get your hands on one. The app is called Gear Up VR, Gear Up North Carolina VR, virtual reality, and there are 360 tours, degree tours of the 16 UNC campuses, and it includes the 58 community colleges. The good thing is they're short tours, they're short videos, anywhere from 1.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes at most. But they're going to give you the best highlights of their campus and some of the programs offered on their campus. The Gear Up app is available through the iTunes or Google Play, and it's completely free. So check it out. This was an example I was going to show you of Elizabeth City State, but since we know going live doesn't quite work too well, take the option to look at these institutions, even the 2-year schools. Again, at this time of year, not knowing where we stand for the next academic year, maybe you would want to consider staying a little bit more locally and attending a community college and doing a transfer. But thinking ahead, maybe looking at the 4-year school too, to realize where can I go beyond my 1 to 2 years at the community college. So that was the tour information. Let's move on now to what I mentioned very earlier on about the college redirection. Again, we've had this at College Foundation for, I don't know, maybe 15 or more years than this. Here's the concept behind the college redirection. If a student has not yet made decisions about where they want to go, it's the spring of their senior year. Maybe, unfortunately, sometimes students are not accepted into their first choice schools, or they want to know what other options they have. We have this feature that will allow students to enter their data, it's self-reported data, into the college redirection pool. So they're going to be reporting information about their GPA, their test scores, any other extracurricular activities, with the hopes that institutions in our state and the student must accept and realize that they can be prospected by any institution in the state by putting themselves into this redirection pool. Colleges can prospect the student if indeed they have more slots available to meet their freshman enrollment goals or maybe their transfer enrollment goals. It just simply meets the needs of the student if they're finding and wanting to find a home for college. And it's going to meet the needs for the institution if they're still having admission slots available and they need to meet their enrollment numbers. So it's very vital that if students want to be a part of this, that they're entering as accurate of information as possible. When I used to work at Barton, I did this for Barton College. It's the late spring of the year, sometimes late May, and I still had a couple more students to meet my enrollment goals. I would go out to CFNC and prospect the type of student that we would want at Barton and the admissions criteria, and I would reach out to those students to say, hey, I found your name through the CFNC College Redirection. I'd love for you to consider Barton. Would you be interested in coming for a visit, checking out our website, or even completing an application for admissions? But the colleges really want to make sure that when they're going out to prospect, that they're going to find as best of information when they get that student to apply as to what they prospected, if that makes sense. So all 2-year and 4-year schools have the capability to do this, but just remember, not all 2-year and 4-year schools are prospecting because they may not need the additional slots available for them on their campus. So it is a great tool though. All right. So thirdly, the primary things that we're going to look at today, if indeed that you're trying to figure out where do I belong after high school, what are my interests that I have that I'd like to get more information on, maybe I would want to attend an enrichment program or some type of camp to get a better idea of my career goals and where I might end up. Or maybe you just want to do this for fun. Maybe you just have always had an interest in baking and you just want to go to some sort of culinary camp or culinary program. So the concept behind the summer enrichment programs at College Foundation, we have about, 134 programs right now in this summer enrichment that you can, I'm going to bounce back, you have the option to do your filters. You can search by your grade level. You can search by specifically an institution. Maybe I really want to go to a summer opportunity over in Appalachian State in the mountains. So maybe I'm going to look at all the camps that they have. Or if I'm really talented in a certain area, or if I really want to learn more about aerospace, then I don't really care where it is. I'm just going to use aerospace as my primary subject option to search. And again, if you're not specific to the institution, but just want to go to a region, maybe I'm going to look at all the programs there at the coast. So you have the option to do your filters, and then you also have the option to search for all of the 134 programs listed. So again, that took me off, sorry. Okay, I'm back. Most of the camps, or many of the camps, I should say, are residential. So they will allow the student to stay on the campus site for a couple of days. And all of the camps, all of the programs, mind you, will be hosted at one of our 111 institutions. So you get the feel for the college campus by being on site. You get the feel for the college campus by living in their residence halls, being in their science labs, whatever it may be. So that's the really neat thing about these, that you're getting the experience by being hands-on on that college campus. Obviously, for those that are not residential, they could be just commuter camps. It could be just a one-day deal. Maybe it's a 3-day deal, and you come during certain times of the day. Obviously, if transportation fits you, and that's great. Most of these programs listed are for middle and high school. However, there are some for elementary, but most are for the upper grades, anywhere from 7th, I'd say, to 12th grade. Many of the camps will carry a cost, but others that, as they do carry a cost, will have scholarships available or opportunities that you can reduce the cost, if not have the entire cost paid for. And you'll find many of our camps are free as well. And there is the option for you to search only for the camps that have scholarships. On that previous screen that I showed you in the filters, you can search by just those camps that have scholarships. And we tend to update these at College Foundation every spring to make sure they're the most recent and the most fitting camps for the upcoming summer. And I shared with you on the screen there just some examples. NC State has an Ag Discovery Camp that's pretty neat. UNC Greensboro has an outstanding camp called the All Arts, Sciences, and Technology. So there's so many different topics under that camp, and they're usually hosted several different weeks during the month of typically June and July. And I found a pretty neat one at College of the Albemarle, which is up in Elizabeth City. They have a babysitting camp. They have many what they call boot camps, and they're one-day events, one-day camps. And I thought this one was pretty neat about babysitting. You'll learn the Heart Saver certification card. You'll get that. So a lot of different reasons that you can search out these programs simply to learn more about what they are, to get a true hands-on experience for the institutions. So now, since we've talked about these three primary areas, let's go into a little bit more details, especially if you are a rising senior, or if you currently are a senior but have not done this yet. Let's just talk about how to get to the point to afford your next step of college after high school. Again, whether it's a community college or the four-year school, there is a process that you're required to go through to ensure that you're getting all the financial assistance to get to the end result of college. Number one, you have to make sure you complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and here's the web address. And for all students and a parent, if indeed that student is dependent upon the parent, will be required to get what we call your FSA ID, your Federal Student Aid ID. It is a username and password that you create, the student, and along as the student, if there's at least one parent in the household, only one parent needs an ID as well. And we're going to make sure that you use that ID for several reasons. You can log into your FAFSA with it. And number two, you can electronically sign your FAFSA. Of course, you can't sign a computer screen. So we need some sort of measure in which you can electronically submit your FAFSA and a signature. That will serve as your ID. There's some other reasons you'll need an ID too, but those are the two primary reasons that you're going to need it. When do I complete the FAFSA? If you're in your senior year, or as you're progressing through college, at any point in time you're pursuing financial aid, and you should every year, as early after October 1st as possible. The FAFSA opens October 1st. And for example, I gave the year, if you are a junior and you're planning to enter college in the fall of 2021, you're going to use 2019 tax data. The best way to remember this is it's always 2 years prior to the year of enrollment in which parents and or students will use tax information. And fortunately, because it is 2 years prior, that most families would have already completed their taxes, and that information is sitting with the IRS. If indeed they had to complete taxes, it's already there. Because there is a neat option that you can use, what we call the data retrieval tool in the FAFSA, to import your data without having to manually enter all the income information. So that's pretty neat. Make sure you're meeting your college's financial aid deadlines. You may find that many institutions are going to have preferred deadlines to complete the FAFSA. They're ready to find out how much aid that they can give you. They're ready to sit down with all of their incoming students and decide how much assistance can I provide to this student, so hopefully they will select my institution. So that's why it's important that you meet deadlines, not only just your first year of entering college, but every year thereafter, as you're a continuing student, that you're meeting any deadlines that the college has set forth. And make sure you're completing the right year. For example, if you're that rising senior and you're going to be graduating in June, May of 2021, and you're going to be entering college in August of 2021, make sure you're going to be completing the right year. So therefore, you're going to be completing 21-22 FAFSA. In the academic year that you will be attending college, that's the year that you will select when you land on the FAFSA's website. Quite often, you're going to see 2 years of a FAFSA out there for the current year and for the upcoming year. Just make sure you're completing the right form. And even if your institutions that you're considering does not have a preferred deadline, And that's usually most of our community colleges. They're not pushing you to complete the FAFSA by a certain date. Make sure you're completing it still as early after October 1st as possible. Because again, it's first come, first serve with the type of aid that our institutions are offering and the type of aid from our federal government in the state of North Carolina. So that date is very important for colleges to see that you've applied early so that they can consider you for all aid possible. And what is that aid? I talk about aid and your financial aid award notification. There are several different types of aid. The four primary types, what we call grants and scholarships. Those are those free monies. That's why we call it gift. When you receive a gift, you typically don't pay those funds back. So that's the same for grants and scholarships. Those are the dollars you want. And then the two other types are employment and loans. Employment is like work study. Having a job on a college campus that you're getting paid to have that job, and it can be very flexible with your schedule in between classes, right after class. You simply work that out with the financial aid office. And then student loans and or parent loans. We know when we borrow money, no matter what it's for an education, for a car, for a house, that we've got to pay those dollars back. So those funds, employment and loans, are considered what we call self-help funding. Now, we hope that all of you, as you're pursuing your high school curriculum and then pursuing your college career and you're doing well in school, that you're going to qualify for merit funding. Merit funding are typically a lot of those scholarships that have a lot to do with your academic performance, your class selection, GPA, test scores. Maybe it's because you excel at a certain sport and you're going to receive an athletic scholarship. Or maybe it's because you are performing some outstanding community service and leadership, and you're being rewarded for that because of what you've been able to do. Then we consider those merit fundings. It typically has nothing to do with the amount of money that comes into your household. So speaking of money coming into the household, most of all the aid awarded to students from the FAFSA is called need-based aid. Otherwise, there would be no need for the government to collect your income. So if there's income coming into the household or other types of funding that's being supported and provided to that student, that's why it's important that it's reported on the FAFSA. So an example of a need-based aid would be like the Pell Grant, which is the largest federal grant program in our nation. And then one of our student loans is also need-based because the government pays the interest, and that's called the subsidized loan. We'll talk more about that in just a second. And remember, the big reason that we certainly go through this process as we continue each year in school is that you do this every year. You don't complete it the first year of entering college and it's said and done for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You have to do this every year to know how much funding you could get from that institution. Now that the colleges, let's say you file the FAFSA, it's been processed by the Department of Education. You can put up to 10 institutions on the FAFSA. They now have your information, what the government has processed. So they're ready to start awarding aid. They're trying to now let you know how much funding that they can offer you to come to their institution. So some of the examples from the federal government, as I just mentioned, the Pell Grant, that's the largest program. It goes to what we call the neediest of households, households that have little to no income. And then there's another federal grant that we call the SEOG, the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. This program is much smaller than the federal Pell Grant. So colleges run out of this money. And that's another reason you want to make sure you're meeting any type of deadlines early on. We've already talked about work study, having the opportunity to work while you're in school and making money, choosing to pocket that money for your own expenses, or maybe you're needing to turn that over to the college to help pay for any type of monthly payment plan. Totally your choice when it comes to work study. And then moving on to loans. As a student going to college, if you are indeed dependent, or if you're independent, but if you are dependent upon a parent, the federal government will allow you to borrow funding. There's no credit check, there's no cosigner for a parent. It's just simply your right to go to college, that the government will extend you funds. But the good thing is you're capped. Freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors, you have certain limits of aid. For a first-time freshman going to college with freshman credit hours, the maximum a student can borrow if they're dependent is $5,500. Moving up to sophomore year, it's $6,500, and moving into the junior and senior year, it's $7,500. So those are the caps that dependent students can borrow while they're in college. And the two different types of loans there you see is subsidized and unsub. Those are the interest rates for this year. We won't know interest rates for the year that you're going to be in college until the summer right before you're planning to enter college. That's when the government releases those interest rates. And then parents, you can borrow as well from the federal government. Of course, the federal government will let you borrow. However, you do need to go through a credit check. Only one parent, if it's a two-parent household, would need to apply. And that parent, if indeed they've met the credit requirement, will be able to borrow the balance of what the charges at the institution are and the type of aid the student is getting, the amount of aid the student is getting. So that's why it's very fortunate that the government will let parents borrow as well. And of course, if you're going to graduate school, you can borrow. So the aid doesn't stop there after the federal government. After the college considers any type of federal funding, the institution is then going to look at state aid. And so these are the grants that we offer in North Carolina, the grants that we manage on behalf of College Foundation for our state partner, the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. We break down our grants based on the type of institution the student is planning to attend. So if you're planning to go to one of our 16 UNC campuses, we call that the UNC need-based grant. If you're planning to go to one of our 58 community colleges, maybe you can be eligible for the community college grant. And then the need-based scholarship goes to only the students planning to enter one of our private institutions, the 36 private colleges in the state. And the fourth grant program, though it's called scholarship, it's really one of our grants, is the education lottery. So students who may be eligible going to one of our public schools, that's going to be the 16 UNC campuses, or the 58 community colleges, could possibly qualify for lottery funding. If you're considering colleges in the state and you want to reach out to those institutions, the financial aid offices for more information or to ask about what types of specific funding they have, take a look at this. On CFNC, we have this interactive map of all the institutions in our state, and you can click on those little icons, those little yellow, red, green icons, and in the bottom left, whichever, of course, institution you choose, there will be information about the financial aid person or the contact information for someone there at that college campus. So we encourage families to go out to this if they are needing specific questions answered about that institution or the type of aid they offer. And of course, when the time comes, and for this year, it's October 24th, students and families can register for what we call FAFSA Day. That's an opportunity on October 24th, which is a Saturday, that students and families can go to certain locations in the state to get help actually submitting their FAFSA or maybe starting their FAFSA. So keep that in mind down the road. FAFSA Day always wraps up the week of Countdown to College, that college application week. And if you remember earlier, I told you that was October 19th through the 23rd. So FAFSA Day on that Saturday, it always wraps up that week. Okay, and we're coming to a close here. We can open up for questions very soon. More monies in the state of North Carolina. I want to make sure I reached out to share this with you. If you are a foster youth, or if you know someone in your class or your school that has been in foster care, those students qualify for quite a bit of funding. So ncreach.org is where those families need to go. We also have a large number of counties in our state that participate in the Golden Leaf funding. This is an academic and a need-based program. We have a very long list of scholarships at College Foundation that we also published a little booklet to. Unfortunately, we only were able to send one book to each high school in the state. So another way you can get your hands on this information without having to stand in line and check out this book is go to cfnc.org/FA-book. And the other place you can go is cfnc.org/scholarships. And fourthly, we have a fantastic program in our state for students pursuing certain majors. So if you're thinking about going into nursing, high-need teaching areas, any area of allied health, medical programs, the forgivable education loan for service could be for you. The funding is awarded to you while you're in college, and it acts like a loan. But after you graduate and you stay in North Carolina to go to work at the degree level in which we gave you the funding in college, then we will pay off that loan for you. So basically 1 year of work, 1 year of service cancels out 1 year of the loan that we gave you in college. So go out and take a look at the list of majors required for that program. Unfortunately for this year, it's already passed. The deadline is March the 1st, but it's going to open up this coming December for all the rising students interested in applying for the program. And I mentioned the long list of scholarships. Here's the website again for the scholarships and the FELs. And it's just a long list, a long flowing list. It seems like we have about 85 or 90 different scholarships and other types of grant programs listed there. And we're going to tell you up front the eligibility requirements, how much money the scholarship is, and the deadline. So take a look at this, and I think it's really going to help you. And the main thing is, I want to share this with you really quickly. Now is the time to be doing these searches. If you're going to wait until your senior year, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So I tell 9th graders, 10th graders to start looking now for scholarship opportunities. Going to a lot of these national databases, I'm going to share those with you, and writing down, keeping a calendar of deadlines and writing down when these scholarships are going to become available. So you'll know not to miss a deadline. How do you complete scholarship applications? What should you do? Great tips. Make sure, number one, you're eligible for the scholarship. If you don't want to be a nursing major, then don't qualify and don't apply for any nursing scholarship. Read all the instructions clearly. Answer any of the prompts that they may give you about writing, and always personalize it. You know, dear Miss Denton or dear Miss Ruffin, and make it personal to you. If you're not prompted for a certain type of topic to write about, and you're given the freedom to write about anything you would wish, tell a story. Make sure you're telling your story. It's amazing how much that can make a difference for the admissions of a student to an institution or the scholarship selection for a student. Colleges want to know more about that student. They want to make sure that indeed they're getting the best candidate possible for their college, or they're awarding this fund, this huge scholarship, to the best person possible. And always, always spell check and reread and let people read your essays or your personal statements or your scholarship applications before you submit them. There are many reasons why students don't receive scholarships, even if you're the best candidate. If you can't spell, and certainly if you've not answered the prompt of the scholarship the way you should. Sometimes you're just moved to the side. So don't be moved to the side. Make sure you're meeting all the criteria. And not just for your first year of college. Make sure you're applying for scholarships all of your years that you're going to be going to college, even graduate school. And the 4 primary areas for scholarships, just to make sure you're aware, your community, your local community, right where you belong. Reach out to your school websites to find out what's in your back door. By word of mouth, find out if there are scholarships available through your local workplaces, through local restaurants, religious denominations, your churches, maybe your parents' work. Just find out what's available right in your back door so you're not missing out. A lot of those aren't available until the spring of the year. So you do have time as you're starting off your senior year to find out what's available, but you're going to be too late if you wait until your senior year if you need to increase a grade point average, if you need to increase that community service project or whatever other leadership project there at school. You've got plenty of time if you're doing your homework ahead of time. So just try not to wait until the last minute. I've already mentioned the state-based scholarships. Find out from the colleges, what types of programs do they have at their institution? It's very hard sometimes for colleges to reach out to every incoming freshman or every continuing student to say, hey, Brittany, I've got these scholarships for you this year. Why don't you go out and look at them? So you have to be proactive to make sure that you're reaching out to the institutions or checking out their websites to find out what's available. And then certainly, very important, check out all the scholarships that's out there on a national level. College Board is a wonderful resource. They, of course, are the site where students register for the SAT. Their scholarship portal is called Big Future, and they have hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of scholarships. I would definitely recommend all students to get on that website and maybe take a look at one or two of these other sites that have scholarships. Because they are national, I think you're going to find the scholarships repeat from one site to the next. So I don't think it's necessary to get on all 5, for example, but maybe 2 or 3 of them would be ample enough for you to begin your searches. All right, so let's get through. And I'm also going to make sure I share this with you. We have a fantastic number of career resources at College Foundation. If you're not sure about your next steps and your next plans beyond high school, and I know that that fits a lot of students today, check out some of the resources that we have. And one of the more popular resources that we're mandated by our state legislature to share on our website is the Know Before You Go. This is a prospect of 30 occupations in our state that have strong career prospects. So we're going to list them there, and we're going to tell you the projections of these jobs through the year 2026. So you may find that this could be a way to guide you along your career pathway when right now you don't know what you want to do. Find out more about these careers as you search them through CFNC. We have over 2,000 career profiles on our website. So that's 2,000 options that you could become one day. And I bet you there are going to be a lot of them that you've never heard of before, you didn't know. So explore them. And then we have this wonderful resource through the North Carolina Commerce called Reality Check. Reality Check is a fun tool to play with. Even as adults and parents, we can play with it. So take a look at that on CFNC, and all of this is under the Plan for a Career tab, okay? I wanted to highlight a few of the career assessments. The point of a self-assessment is to learn more about you so it can help you and guide you into the next steps. So maybe you've never taken an assessment to type what type of interest you have, to type what type of personality I have that will fit me with a number of career options, whether it be careers in our state or careers outside the walls of our state. It doesn't matter, but the main thing is you're learning more about who you are. So the interest profiler and the career key, they type the same type of end result. They're going to figure out what your interests are, and it's going to match you to a list of careers. And it could be one of those 2,000 plus possibilities. So you can play with these. And then another one that we like to share with students is called the career cluster. This is a more broad way of thinking. There are 16 national career clusters. So you're going to find out which career cluster, or maybe which 2 career clusters you belong to give you a very broad look at the cluster, but then the specific details underneath that cluster. It doesn't take long to complete, 15, 20 minutes at best, if even 15 to 20 minutes. And the great thing about it is you'll have a more directed view of where you should belong and a more directed view of one day what college you can pick. All right. This is the type of information, and this is just an example I chose here, a chef. What does a chef do? Do I have the interest or the skills to be a chef? And how do you know that? Because you've taken the career assessment. And it's going to tell you, for example, over here that in order to be a chef, I need to be enterprising, I need to be realistic and artistic. Does that sound like me? Can I be a chef? So you're going to find this information out. And of course, everybody wants to know, how much money am I going to make? So it will tell you the earnings on a North Carolina level, a regional level, and certainly a more broader perspective of the United States. And you can see some real live interviews with chefs, for example. Maybe while you're being a chef, and we always make sure students know that you'll never not need math. Though you may think you'll never need math, at some point in time you always will need math. So how does math play into the role of being a chef? Well, obviously it has a lot to do with measurements and measuring out your food and spices and whatever else. So that's just a great idea of the types of details that any of these 2,000 careers can give you as you're searching them on and finding them on CFNC. And the last thing I want to mention as we're coming to a close of the hour is our Financial Basics course. It's called Financial Basics for High School and Beyond. It's our financial literacy program that we offer to any high school student and college student in our state. There are about 15 mini course topics that we offer, and all of the topics are tied in and are mapped to personal finance and social studies content that you're having to learn there at school. And the good thing too, if you're a high school student completing this course and passing it, because we're going to ask you some questions, and you're going to have to answer some questions along the way. There's not a lot of them, but we're going to make sure that if you pass it with the requirements for the state of North Carolina, you have become a CT recognized credential. You've received your certification and met the graduation requirements for North Carolina in your career technical education. So that's really neat. And here are the course topics. Look at some of these. This is wonderful for you to learn more about. If you've never experienced these, and one day you're going to be on your own, students, and you're going to have to make a lot of decisions without the help of a parent or a family member next to you. So why not learn more about these now so you'll be better prepared as you're moving on to college and beyond college. And I think lastly, I want to share with you this. If you've not already heard, we are moving to a brand new look at CFNC. So we're getting what we call a very well-deserved update this summer. The go live date right now is the end of June. So we're hoping by July, we'll have a brand new look to our site, and it's sort of going to look like this. This is the home page of what we call the new CFNC.org. And it's going to be catered more to the student and how you plan to use CFNC. We plan to have like a dashboard where anything that you think is most pertinent to you, it will be saved there. We're not getting rid of the plan, apply, and pay, and certainly the save option. We're still sticking with those, but it's going to be more robust, certainly a more dynamic type of use for our students and families in the state. It's been a long time coming, and we're so excited about it coming this summer. Lastly, keep a check on CFNC and what we're sharing out on our social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We have a wonderful list of videos on our YouTube channel and Instagram. All of the regional reps in the state have Instagram and Facebook pages. For example, mine is Amy at CFNC for both Facebook and Instagram. And know that you can always call us. Even during this pandemic time, our staff members are still at work. They're working from home, but they're still going to be there to answer your phone calls. They're still going to be there to answer your emails that you're submitting through the CFNC portal. So just don't give up on us yet. If you have any questions that you may not reach out and cannot reach out to someone specific at your school, we'll try to help you the best we can at CFNC. All of the regional reps and certainly the staff we have in our call centers. And I think that is it, Kim. So if there are any questions and from their chat or any questions right now, I'll be glad to help out. there any questions out there? So you're welcome to unmute yourself and we'll go from there. All right. Crystal?
I'm not seeing any questions,
Okay.
but that was a wonderful presentation and there's so much good information. And we appreciate you coming today and hope
You're
we'll
welcome.
be doing some more sessions with CFNC. I appreciate Brittany and Tamika coming, and they're also your representatives there at CFNC. So we thank so many of you, and there's some nice things in the chat about CFNC is such an amazing resource, and that's so true, and we appreciate all that you do there.
Good. Well, thank you, Kim, and we look forward to helping in any way we can. So thanks for letting us be a part of your speaker series.
Well, thank you. And for those of you that would like this presentation, you can get that on our Iwork at NCVPS speaker series page. And so until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.